Tim Burchett says that Jake Barber might be a plant. We have that and more to talk about today, so get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Yeah, this is from Matt Laszlo at Ask a Poll. UAP Caucus co-chair Tim Burchett worries whistleblower Jake Barber's a plant just to steer us off. Post scheduled for Tuesday. Yeah, and of course, Matt wants you to sign up for Ask a Poll. And this is something that many people have wondered. Is Jake Barber a plant? Now, Jake has been vouched for by David Grush. He's been studied and thoroughly vetted by Ross Coulthart, and various others. Stephen Greer has a large involvement with Jake Barber. And of course, Lou Elizondo has also vouched for him to some extent.
The whistleblower that you're referring to that came forward, he is who he is. He was a special operator. He is an American hero. He's done a lot for his country. Now, whether his observation and his perspective is accurate, I think he's telling his truth. And I think people need to understand that he put himself to a lot of risk, Jake did, for having this conversation with America. Now, for the record, I've never met the guy, but I have special operator friends of mine who I've worked with that were actually there with him and providing some security support and have said, hey, this guy is legit and here's his background and these are the missions he's been on. So he is part of that elite group of the best of our country. And I know it's kind of difficult for a lot of people to absorb that you have this guy that's coming out kind of out of the blue and making these claims. But I think everybody deserves to be heard.
Yeah, and so Tim Burchett may be having trouble with some of Jake's information. I mean, Jake openly talks about psionic abilities and how that plays a big role in UFOs and the control group's interaction with UFOs, and even how to develop your own psionic abilities.
You're either born with a gift or you spend 30 years as a Shaolin monk and you figure out how to do it the hard way. There are either easier ways, there are cheats. And some of the cheats that have been experimented with are things that have not fared well for those involved in the program, including children, and I'll talk about them. So how do we heighten intuition? Well, you do it through stress inoculation.
Anyway, he goes on to talk about how to develop these abilities. He's also talked about being visited by an angel or an angelic presence of some sort. You talk about the hitchhiker effect, Jake says, and I shared that most of my experience has been positive, but I haven't shared that stuff has followed me home and that my family sees it. We have stuff show up over our house. We have a UAP we call the Angel that shows up and it looks like it has wings. It's blue and it comes in, materializes, hangs out over the house. It's seen by neighbors. It's seen by everybody. And then it's gone. It shoots off into outer space. So, he sees and talks about a lot of stuff. By the way, I'm glad that his hitchhiker effect was an angelic presence and not the terrifying wolfman that Jay Stratton and his family were subjected to. But yeah, Jake does talk about some wild stuff that seems to be where the UFO topic goes. Steve Kojak says, so this is just a theory, but Tim is a very religious guy. I like him very much because he seems to be a real one, not a criticism. He's found a way to reconcile UAPs with faith, so cool. But what I've seen from my religious followers over Barber's claims is some pretty deep discomfort. Feels way too much like a seance to them to summon something from elsewhere. The stuff Barber talks about doing is paradigm challenging for religion. No idea if this is his basis, but was my first thought. And I think that's very likely why Tim Burchett does seem to have this discomfort for Jake Barber, despite being thoroughly vetted by credible people. But hey, that's just my take. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think Jake Barber is a plant? Meanwhile, Eric Burleson still hasn't heard of Jake Barber. Matt Laszlo once again caught up to Congressman Eric Burleson. I was curious, have you been able to check out that new whistleblower, Jake Barber? I haven't. Oh, no? Is he the one that was one of those people that was working with David Grush? Matt Laszlo says, I believe so. Actually, it turns out he was not one of David Grush's 40 plus whistleblowers, but he is known by Dave. Eric Burleson says, I've heard of. He pulls out a phone and starts looking up a whistleblower. Okay, so I heard an interview, I think. He's still scrolling. I've been caught up with so many other things. Yeah, he's still scrolling. I need to look him up. Scrolling. Matt Laszlo says, yeah, I think it was Ross. He was on News Nation with Ross. Still scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Matt Laszlo, Eric Burleson looks up from scrolling, commenting on Ross. The British guy? Close. Matt doesn't argue. He says, yeah, check it out. Because I'm curious if you guys are going to maybe want to bring him in to hear his testimony. Eric is still scrolling. Wasn't he talking about, and then Matt Laszlo says, goal. Eric Burleson finds what he's been scrolling for. Okay, he says, never mind. Okay. I love Matt. Burleson puts the phone down as if he had been thinking of a different whistleblower. Matt Laszlo says, yeah. Eric says, I'll look. Check him out. So yeah, while we wait for Eric Burleson to check out Jake Barber, but there you go. Eric has not taken the time to check out Eric Burleson, or excuse me, Jake Barber. He's probably taken the time to check out Eric Burleson. Meanwhile, Tim Burchett is saying Jake as a plant. None of this bodes super well for Jake appearing before Congress, but hopefully he will get his day before Congress because I think he has some very valuable information. He is an historic individual. He and the others that came out with him are the first, members of the UFO control group to have come out in a public way in the modern era that has been thoroughly vetted and that might have a chance at standing in front of or sitting before Congress. However, of course, there are a long line of whistleblowers that came before Jake, and here Lou Elizondo is talking about Bob Lazar.
Why doesn't the government talk about Bob Lazar?
Well, probably why they don't talk about me, I can imagine. We go against the grain. I've never met Mr. Lazar, to be honest with you, and for the record, so people say, well, what do you think of Lazar? I don't. I have no way to judge. I've never met the gentleman. I think he's saying his truth, whatever that truth may be, just like I'm saying mine.
Sure.
But look, the government has spent a lot of time doing the same thing to me. When I first came out, they even denied that ATIP was real. They even denied that I was part of it, right? Like I think somebody even accused it wasn't even at the Pentagon. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? I mean, there's my desk. There's a safe that's got all the stuff in it. So I suspect if he's enduring the same thing, it'd be for the same reasons.
Yeah, so there you go. Lou seems to think that Bob is on the level. Also, I want to know what's in that safe. Speaking of what the heck, what is this underwater object caught by this news team? Check it out. It's got music playing, so I can't do it. But look at this. Look at this. Wait for it. Look at that. Did you see that? Zoom in slow-mo. Look at this crazy, fast-moving object underwater. Right there. What? Okay. Got to see that again. All right. It's super fast. It's very large. Very lenticular, I guess. Look at that. Look at that. That is wild. I mean, could that be an artifact of the camera doing something funky? Or is there something large and fast moving under the water? What do you guys think? And here's a cool UFO sighting that was caught on January 29th in Dallas, in Texas, my own state. Check it out. I got these flying objects in the sky. Are those Chinese paper lanterns? I don't think so. I don't think they're seagulls. Could those be, actual drones? Listen to the audio.
Oh no, look. That one disappeared.
In the sky. Look in the sky.
Oh my fucking god.
Didn't mute the audio soon enough. But yeah, look at that. A good sighting of whatever the heck these things are. The guy in the audio says one of them winked out. So maybe not, drones, actual drones. Very cool. Similar to the sighting that I saw at the last ayahuasca retreat that I went on. We saw these glowing orbs or whatever they were in the clouds. Very similar to this. They're just kind of hanging out, moving around a little bit, and they were interacting with us to some extent. Yeah, I think it's a cool sighting. What do you guys think? Is this a legit anomalous sighting, or can this be explained by mundane reasons? Meanwhile, here's Whitley Strieber talking about some of the same things I was talking about the other day with the spiritual stuff, about how some of these gray aliens seem to be other dimensional, higher dimensional beings that come into our reality. And that's, information gathered from various experiencers. And Whitley is talking about the same thing. I think that the grazed must normally exist in some other state of being, and that they use bodies to enter our reality as we use scuba gear to penetrate the depths of the sea. Fascinating thought, right? Now, some of these beings are likely living in our 3D reality, but some of them seem to come from elsewhere, and they inhabit these bodies that are made for them, to move around. Like he says, as in a scuba suit, maneuver around in our reality. Fascinating stuff. What is going on out there? What are these beings? Where do they come from? Why are they here? Meanwhile, getting back to Jake Barber, it appears that the UFO control group may still be taking people out. We have heard, or I've heard, I'm using the royal we, over the last few years that the control group has, they assassinate fewer people now. They tend to prefer to smear and discredit and even imprison people rather than killing them. But Jake is hinting that not so fast, they are still doing that. Here's a slightly sped up version of his interview with Jesse Michaels.
Are you one of David Grush's 40 firsthand witnesses that he says he presented to the Intelligence Community Inspector General Thomas Monheim?
No, Dave and I met after his initial complaint was filed with the ICIG, and those guys represented a set. I don't know the 40. I know of some of them. One of them is the guy who's no longer with us, whose demise was quite conveniently timed for those who might have something to do with it. But sorry, I didn't mean to go there with it.
Yeah, so one of David Grush's 40 whistleblowers may have been taken out by the UFO control group. That's scary, obviously, and tragic for that individual and his family, and for the rest of us that would have liked to have learned what he would have shared. But also, could this be intimidating to the other whistleblowers? I know it would be intimidating for me, and maybe that was the point, and maybe that's why we haven't heard any of these 40-plus whistleblowers going forward. Meanwhile, experiencer and author Ashiana Dean, who wrote The Sleeping Abductees, The Voyagers, The Sleeping Abductees, a really brilliant book. Kind of a bigger picture book about what's going on, but it gets very detailed and it's a very dense book. Good stuff, though. Good stuff in it. A lot about the law of one and just really fascinating stuff. Well, she says that 8% of the people of the human populace has to wake up to get to a certain point before we can start modifying our DNA with other dimensional, beings or assistants of some sort. She can explain it better than I can. It's over a 5-minute clip. I will link to it and you can listen to it at your leisure. But here's a little segment of it.
It requires 8% of the population on the planet to assemble the 5th DNA strand and be able to hold 5th dimensional frequencies in their body in order for Earth to be able to merge properly with Terra during this time cycle. We're not quite up to that yet, but we're close. So one of the things they're asking us to do is learn about our DNA, learn how to use the higher chakras to bring high frequency energy into the DNA, which helps it assemble. Because the higher you can get your DNA and your body and your consciousness vibrating, you're plugged right into the earth grid. It will make the earth grid vibrate faster. There's strength in numbers. The more of us that can do this, the faster the earth grid will vibrate. So it's one of the things they're asking us to do.
Now, yeah, she goes on, and again, I'll link to it below. It's really fascinating material in there. But they're asking us to modify our DNA using our higher chakras. Now, a few years ago, I would have thought any talk of chakras was pretty silly. Even when I was going through Reiki class and learning about the energy and interacting with the energy and learning that it was very real and that we can all interact with the energy, chi, the force. Even back then, I was very skeptical on chakras until later, even after I got out of the class, and it was a 1.5 year long class. I had it demonstrated to me that chakras were real. So can we actually use our higher chakras to modify our DNA to help usher in this new age of mankind? Interesting thoughts. I would love to know your opinions on all of that. And if you have been able to open up all of your chakras and do all of that kind of good stuff, I guess my chakras are pretty good because I had a Kundalini awakening a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. And apparently all your chakras have to be in a pretty good place for that to happen. But I don't know if I've modified my DNA. So I may still have some work to go. Meanwhile, Tangle Diddy shares this video, another video of 4 UAP drones, followed by 10 possible military helicopters. This one seems to be the real deal. Okay.
They're low. 3 of them.
Now, some have commented on why the video is only focused on the helicopters. The camera person is only focused on the helicopters. And in the audio clip, they're only talking about the helicopters. So were those other shapes added in post? It's possible. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Speaking of David Grush and Jake Barber, Joey is not my name, post this, the quote that went over everyone's head from Barber. A couple weeks ago, I have fulfilled a promise to our friend David Grush by getting myself into a skiff with Congress, and I have provided top secret SCI testimony on the subject matter of UAP. And Joey says he calls Grush a friend. That means there's a relationship there. He demonstrates that he has strong enough relationship with Grush and that Grush feels comfortable enough to ask Barber for a fairly big promise, and Barber respects Grush enough to make that promise and keep his word. Very interesting. But let me know what you guys think about it all in the comments below as we admire this spooky tree. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hit the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Discord, links below. Love to see you guys there. Buy a t-shirt. Become a channel member. Channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you so much. Also, channel members frequently get to see videos hours ahead of everybody else. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.